How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Training Camp Podcast. Hope everyone's staying. It's gonna be real weird. I hope y'all are staying warm, or maybe cold. I don't really know what the weather's been like right now because this morning it was snowing like crazy. When I say like crazy, I mean literally like crazy. It didn't stop for like an hour, and then it was 55 degrees for the rest of the day, and then now all of a sudden, it's like 32. So if the rest of y'all are like us in Utah, I'm sorry that it's been like this. Yeah, it was nice. It was like snow covering all the houses because I'm in an apartment building, so I'm like elevated, so I can see the roofs of houses. It was like covering the roofs of houses. The street was covered, and then I went to a Zoom class and left, and then it was just gone. So that's wild. Utah's crazy. It's probably just Utah. Let's be real. But hey, spring is rolling around soon. I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know about you guys. We didn't have much of a winter here. It wasn't really cold in December. It was like 45 degrees and sunny, sometimes in the 50s during December. And then even into January, it was pretty warm. And then like towards the second half of January, we started to get snow. And then February, we got like all the snow that we usually get within the span of 1 month. So it was nice to be normal for once. And then it's going to be like 55, 60 degrees next week. So, yeah. Wild times we live in. Welcome back to Training Camp Podcast. So first things first, as always, we're going to hop into the news of the day. So biggest headline for this, or news of the week. Biggest news from this week, obviously, was the Tiger Woods crash. If you didn't know, if you've been living under a rock, Tiger Woods, if you don't know who that is, I'm not even going to go into that because you know who Tiger Woods is, whether you like golf or not. Tiger Woods was involved in a single-person automobile accident yesterday morning. I think it was at 7 a.m., and luckily, there were no life-threatening injuries. He just, I think what ended up happening is he fractured both of his legs. So prayers up and shout out to Tiger Woods. Hope he has a speedy recovery, obviously. I don't want to say that his golfing career might be over after this. I would love to be able to see him get back on the course one more time and maybe win a Masters. That would be sick. I mean, after last year when he came back, or was that 2 years ago when he came back and won the Masters? That'd be sick if after two fractured legs, he was able to come back and do it again. That would be amazing. I'm praying for that to happen. That'd be sick. But I mean, literally just hoping that he can, walk the course with his son and help his son become a better golfer as he ages up, and essentially just try to live a normal life like he's been. So prayers up to Tiger Woods. Another big news that actually got released today, Wednesday. This records a day before it gets posted, if you don't know that. So the biggest news today was that Rappaport and Schefter both reported that it seems like the quarterback carousel for right now is just over. The Jets aren't getting any significant offers, and they don't really want to move off of Darnold quite yet. Marcus Mariota, his offers have dried up, and just other quarterbacks. Those are like kind of the two main ones that were left right now. Obviously Russell Wilson as well, but everything is just kind of settled for right now, which doesn't really surprise me. I think since we're getting closer to the draft, teams want to see what other teams are going to do in the draft first, and then I'm sure right when the draft is either happening or after it happens, that's when we're going to see so many trades that I should have so much content for the podcast after the draft. Switching to the NBA, the Rockets have announced that they do plan to release DeMarcus Cousins. Kind of weird, in my opinion, that they're not, because I'm sure that there are teams that would be willing to trade for him because he's on a low contract. He could help out some contending teams, you never know. There are teams that are in need of a big man for cheap, and I just don't understand. I mean, the Rockets could probably get, minimum a second, but maybe even just like a player in return. So I don't understand why they don't just trade him, but they're going to release him. Maybe that's what Boogie wanted, and they're just honoring what he wants, which is weird too, because I was going to say the Rockets were on a roll, but I was thinking of the Wizards for some reason. The Rockets haven't been horrible since Harden was traded. Everyone thought they'd be a lot worse than they are, but I think it's just going to set up what's going to happen for Houston for the future. I mean, they're going to lose Boogie. They're probably going to lose Victor Oladipo. I doubt they're going to re-sign him for what he wants in a contract. It's basically just going to be Christian Wood by himself with the million draft picks that the Rockets have acquired. The Rockets are basically the Celtics from a couple years ago, but only with like one promising player. So yeah, I don't know why they're not going to trade DeMarcus Cousins. Kind of weird. Not NFL or NBA or sports related, but Spider-Man 3 title has been announced. I'm a huge movie dork, and I also love the MCU so much. Spider-Man No Way Home. So stoked for this. I'm not going to theorize anything because that gives us nothing except maybe it's called No Way Home because Peter, because in all the images we've been given so far, Peter, MJ, and Ned are together. Maybe Peter, MJ, and Ned got sucked into another multiverse because of WandaVision and Multiverse of Madness, and so there's no way home because he's stuck in another universe, possibly the same universe where Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are stuck as well. I don't know, because there's also been pictures that like Mysterio flyers are on the wall, and it's like, we believe, and then also like they teased J. Jonah Jameson in the last movie, so I don't think they teased that without having him be prominent in the next movie. So maybe I'm grasping, but hey, maybe it ends that way. We don't know. Anyway, no matter the title or whatever, super stoked for this. It comes up this December. Seems really soon, honestly. I would have thought it would have been, because they started filming, I think August or September of last year. So I guess maybe films usually film for like 6 to 7 months, and I guess just everything's post. So maybe I'm excited, super stoked for that. And lastly, TMZ. They sent out a video, they tweeted out a video, or they released a video essentially. An interview, like quick interview with Juju, because TMZ loves to just pull people aside because kind of assholes. Sorry, TMZ, it's your rep, you know it, not me. They caught Juju in LA, and they were like interviewing him, and he said he wants to be a Steeler for life. So again, I've stated I would love to have Juju back, even through all of his bullshit from last season. I think he's young, he's gonna grow. I mean, he was literally the oldest, he was the veteran receiver in that receiving room. So I'd love to have him back. I think he's super underrated. I just think we had a season where Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges were our quarterbacks, so he just didn't get the production that everyone was expecting him to be. I think everyone also kind of expected him to be like an Antonio Brown version 2, but he kind of had his production from the success of Antonio Brown. So people were just giving his expectations a little. They were having different expectations than they should have had. They should have monitored those, so that everyone now hates Juju too because TikTok. Whatever. I'm happy for that. I think Juju's great. If he signs for cheap, that'd be great. But yeah, I'd love to have him because I think just running back with the receiving core would be awesome. Speaking of the Steelers, literally, okay, I love it or I hate it when. So I'm a Steelers fan. Everyone knows that. There are moments on the podcast where literally the banner you guys see will be like obligatory Steelers talk because sometimes it just seeps its way in a conversation. Not this time. The entire segment is about to be about the Steelers. But everyone in the media lately has been talking about the Big Ben contract dispute with, or not dispute, but just everything surrounding it with Pittsburgh and how okay. No one besides like Steelers beat reporters, players who play with Ben obviously and play for the Steelers, and and just fans of the team. No one knows what they're talking about when it comes to this whole thing, because everyone looks at this and listen. For the most, like 99% of the time, looking at stats, I'm fine with. But I'm starting to because of this story, I'm gonna start caring about stats a little bit less, and I need to watch a little more game when it comes to other players, and I'll watch this more. Because even though the stats are great, yeah, his yards aren't great, but Ben threw for 32 touchdowns and 10 interceptions last year. Fun fact, he was like 21-3 when we were 11-0. So that's a thing. Also, quickest release of the football, which doesn't just mean he's throwing short, but it means he's protecting himself. What were other things? I don't know. How about Pittsburgh was ranked 32nd in rush offense? Yeah. Or Pittsburgh's O-line started off ranked top 10 and ended the season bottom 20. Or the fact that Pittsburgh lost 4 players due to key injuries this season. I mean, we can count maybe 5 or 6, but those also happen too. But everyone is like, oh, Ben stays, he's hurting the team. No. And then because the argument everyone's making is like, well, Ben wasn't there and they went 8-8. Yeah, and when Ben came back, we went 11-0. And you guys cannot blame the last 5 weeks, essentially 4 because Ben didn't play the last week. We can't blame the last 4 weeks on Ben because the offense itself didn't change. Randy Finkner, if you've even been on my channel, you know about Randy Finkner. He didn't change anything about the offense. Teams came out after the season and were like, yeah, the Steelers are like one of the easiest teams to read because they just didn't change anything. Pittsburgh's offense didn't evolve. We had these great things at the beginning of the season. Like, we were implementing brand new things. Thank you, Matt Canada, by the way, who's our new OC. Super stoked about that. But, we were running more jet sweeps. We were getting the wide receivers more involved because our run game wasn't working. So we were opening everything up. But then week 11 came, and Randy's like, I got the biggest schlong here, so I'm just going to call the plays that suck. And if they don't work, well, screw it, because I'm going to throw this bad boy over my shoulder and just keep doing it because no one can tell me what to do because we're 11-0. That's probably all because of me. No. So when people are like, Yeah, Ben's the problem. Ben is literally not the problem. You could watch these games. Why do you think we beat the Colts? Because the second half, and the report leaked, it was that Ben had come out at halftime and was like, yeah, I'm not going to listen to Randy's play calling anymore. And what did the media do? Ben Roethlisberger's not listening to his offensive coordinator. How disrespectful. The balls on that man. But like everyone was like, oh, no. No one was like, oh, wow, that's kind of weird that they were sucking when Ben wasn't calling the plays. But then they did great when Ben did call the plays. No, because the media just loves to hate on Big Ben because he's not this poster child with like a perfect chin. Well, you know what? Ben has a great chin. I'm sure Ben has an amazing chin. It may not be Tom Brady's chin, but it's a great chin, I'm sure. And everyone's always like, Ben doesn't put in the season, doesn't put in the work in the offseason. Did you guys not pay attention to any of the reports last summer? He literally went through rehab, and then he stopped drinking. He got involved with the Christ. That sounded like Pat McAfee there. He got involved with like going to church. And he started doing off-season workouts, and he started working with his players. He took his players on this whole thing, and he's been doing that for years, but apparently, no one ever talks about it because everyone hates Ben Roethlisberger. But, I mean, literally, I don't understand. Everyone thinks that Ben's the problem. Now, I will say this. Ben with $41 million to the cap, that's the problem. I love you, Ben, but you can't do this. You can't do this by yourself. You need some offensive line. We just lost Pouncey. But here's the other thing no one's talking about. Ben has openly come out and said, I will play for nothing. Now, it's literally impossible because the way his contract works, the minimum he can make is $21 million. So that's $20 million off of his cap hit, which essentially is half of his cap hit. So if he's saying, I will play for nothing, and obviously his contract, he will play for as little as he can, he's still making $21 million. That's less than Jared Goff. That's less than Carson Wentz. That's less than Matthew Stafford. That's less than actually Matthew Stafford, $17 million. But that's less than what Dak Prescott wants. Like that's one of the lower paid quarterbacks in the league. Just less than Tom Brady. It's less than Drew Brees if he was to come back. So he's making no money essentially in comparison to other quarterbacks. And he said he will do that, but everyone's like, Ben Roethlisberger is unbelievable. Why would he want to come back? They lost in the playoffs in the first round to the Browns. They went 11-0 and then lost their last 4 out of 5. Like, are you kidding me? Why does everyone... I think Pittsburgh... Here's the thing. I'm about to piss a bunch of people off, but this is facts. This is going to piss you off because it's true. Y'all love to hate on the Steelers because you're so pissed off and jealous at the consistency they have had for the past 4 decades. Yeah, there was a couple, 4 or 5 year spans where Pittsburgh was like 8-8 for every single year. But Pittsburgh, since like the 50s, has been one of the most consistent and talked about teams in the league and relevant teams in the league because they run their organization really well. 3 head coaches in the past 5 decades. We're 2020, 5 decades. So I think it's just a jealousy thing. I think it's very similar to the Patriots, except the Patriots, don't get me started on the Patriots. Because goddamn, is that impressive, but hate the Patriots. Same reason why people probably love to hate on the Steelers, except at least I can respect Tom Brady. Yeah, I like him now because he's not on the Patriots, but I didn't like him, but I respected him because I know what he's done has been freaking hard. Yeah, there's been bumps in the road for him. What NFL athlete hasn't? So it just bothers me, man. It just bothers the shit out of me, the fact that like no one is... For my notes for this segment, I wrote Big Ben, big stupidity. Because not because Ben's being stupid, but because everyone that's covering this, except for Stephen A. Smith, a Steelers fan, everyone's covering this as if Ben's the problem. Ben's not the problem. We get that defense back healthy if we give Juju back for cheap. Honestly, I don't think James Conner was the problem. I think it was the offensive schematics because for the first 5 weeks of the season, James Conner had a touchdown in every single game. So don't think James Conner's the problem, even though he's not going to come back. It's been announced, which sucks because I really like James Conner because, like, look at this. Okay, stay there. Don't move. Look at this. Hold on. Look at this. Hold on. Look at this, okay? Here's a fun fact. 2 seasons later, retired. 2 seasons later, released. 2 seasons later, not re-signed. That's what's happened 2 years after I've gotten every one of these jerseys. So, JP, I'm sorry I gave you a Derwin jersey. So now I can't even rep my boy. I can't even rep my boy James because he's not even on the team anymore, which is probably not even his fault. I mean, he wasn't even injured last year. The big hit on him before wasn't he's a bad running back. It was he's an injured running back who's good when he plays. And he played all last season. But Randy Fichtner's so bad that he wasn't able to do anything. Did the banner change at some point to obligatory Steeler talk? That's kind of what I got into. Yeah, no, I think Ben coming back at $20 million is great. Cam Hayward just restructured his contract to get $7 million off. So if Ben does restructure down to $21 million, that opens up $27 million, which means we can get Bud Dupree back, which would be freaking awesome, even though I think we'd probably franchise tag him because he's coming off an ACL injury, so we want to see how he performs. Again, I love you, Bud Dupree, but it's a business. So we'd get Bud Dupree back with that. We still have $27 million to spend. We can give... Juju, you want to come back for $7 million? You want to come back for super cheap, making a bunch of money on TikTok? We could give Juju for $7 million, and there we go. That's basically our entire team. We could maybe sign an O-lineman, and then in the draft, maybe just... I mean, I like Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland, and I'm really excited for having Matt Canada as our OC, but like maybe in like the 5th round or the 4th round draft for running back, because it's really not a priority. Our priority is offensive line. We got Ebron still too. I love him as a target. Maybe just send everyone to, like, you know how in NBA 2K you can like send everyone to like a certain training camp? Maybe just send everyone to a catching training camp so people stop dropping the ball, because Big Ben also led the league in dropped passes, so that's another thing. Because Big Ben literally was the only reason this team went 11-0 and then eventually 12-4, and probably could have gone like 13-3, 14-2 if Randy Fichtner wasn't our offensive coordinator. Besides the point, Big Ben staying is the best thing that can happen for Pittsburgh right now. You can't change my mind about that, because here's the thing. If you look at the stats, you might be like, oh, well, I mean, touchdowns-wise, he's pretty good, and interception-wise, it's a kind of high, but I guess kind of good for Ben, but his yards were super low, so he probably was ass. He still is a cannon. He's not Drew Brees all of a sudden, I'll say that. But, like, again, look at the stats. You could be like, oh, well, maybe it's bad. But you can't just look at the stats here. You have to watch the game. In his most recent game, my man threw for almost 500 yards, and he had 4 touchdowns. Yeah, he had 4 interceptions. 3 of them were in the first quarter. 2 of them were batted. So, and one of them was... it's outside. One of them was batted off, tipped off of Deontay Johnson's fingertips. So essentially, one of them was his fault. Don't get me started on the Titans game, because that's 3 interceptions right there off the board. One was a halftime heave, one was tipped, and another one was tipped. So there's 6 interceptions off the board right there. So you don't get me started on he's not the problem. Just watch the game, and you'll know that Randy Fichtner was ass. He was dog shit. He was garbage. Anyways. In the next segment, we got my guest for the show coming on. We're going to talk the NBA All-Stars, as well as, I have obligatory Steelers talk. I should have obligatory Cowboys talk, because we're going to be talking about Dak and his contract injury, and then, of course, as well. So stick around for that, you guys. How's it going, buddy? Welcome back to Training Camp Podcast. If you guys didn't miss it, we did talk about the news of the week, as well as the whole Big Ben rumors and the controversy going on with this contract. But this time... boys, we're breaking barriers, because every single time I've had a guest, they've been on the couch. But unfortunately, this motherfucker that I'm bringing on today he just can't come to the couch, because this dude lives like 400 states away. We've never met in person. We've literally, like, maybe even seen each other via FaceTime like once. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cinco Tube 5, Mr. Chipper. Welcome to the podcast, my guy.
All right, thank you for having me.
How you been? How's the Illinois weather out there?
Actually, quick correction, Michigan.
That's right. You're just a Bears fan.
I'm a Bears fan.
That's right.
That's because I mean, I live like an hour outside of the city. So.
Oh, okay. So it's basically Illinois where you are then.
Basically Illinois.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's tomato potato there. So
yep.
Has it been snowy there, or are you just straight chilling?
It has been very snowy. Very snowy.
Do you like the snow?
Yes and no. I mean, it's nice. It's nice, but then it gets annoying. I'm like, all right, I'm tired of this. I'm ready for summertime.
Hey, don't worry about it. It's going to get warm soon. Anyway, so, as you guys heard, he is a Bears fan. And what's your basketball team? I know you like the Suns, but what's your team?
No,
it's the Bulls, I'm guessing, right?
It's the Bulls, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I used to be a huge Bulls fan when we first met.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the Bulls, the All-Star teams were officially announced. And big controversy was that Devin Booker was not selected. He will be the Anthony Davis replacement, they announced today. But, I mean, he wasn't one of the original selections. For me, I'm on the side of like, hey, that's That's a snub. I don't get it. How can you be leading the West in points and fourth in the conference seating-wise for your team and not be selected as an all-star? Other players that were widely talked about online as being snubs were Domantas Sabonis, Bam Adebayo, as well as Trae Young. I'm curious your thoughts on the all-star selections.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, when Devin Booker year in, year out puts up those numbers and they say, oh, you're not winning, you can't, also, the Suns always been 14th, 13th, in the West, but now he's finally doing that, leading his team to 4th in the Western Conference as the time of this recording. And he's still putting up those numbers, and I mean, to disrespect him again like that, it's just, it's kind of insane to me. Sabonis, another one, I think he very well deserving of an All-Star. I think the Ben Simmons thing is a little iffy. I don't know about that, but
Wait, you're saying that Ben Simmons being selected is iffy?
I mean, I'm fine with it because he's.
Because, I mean, I could pull up a certain tweet that you unpinned from your Twitter like 4 years ago saying, at Ben Simmons, you're a bust, calling it now. And it's, for some reason, no longer pinned. But no, I mean, like, I will say that's one of the hardest things when it comes, like, picking snubs who are snubbed for the All-Star games. You have to pick someone that you'd have to kick out in order for that player to be in. I guess, obviously, in this case, we're not going to have to have the conversation anymore because D-Book is taking Anthony Davis's place. But, I mean, like, if you look at, again, like the players that we mentioned, you got Sabonis, other players being talked about in the East, Trae Young and Bam Adebayo, like, who are you going to take out? And you think Ben Simmons, who, I mean, I will say started off the season pretty mediocre for how he is, but I think he's gotten a little better. He's been adapting throughout the season. Why don't you think Ben Simmons
No,
is
I do.
worthy of All-Star?
No, I do. It's just I'm looking at the names, and obviously I'm so glad Zach LaVine's in there. That's very well deserved.
Very well deserved.
But, I mean, I boil it down, and I'm like, Ben Simmons is... I mean, yes, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be in the All-Star game, but I'm saying over Sabonis, it's a little... I really like Sabonis, and I think he's doing a good job in Indiana. And
it's funny. I wouldn't have I like LaVine, and I think he deserves it because not only is he balling out, but he's basically trying his best to carry the Bulls team right now, which hasn't been let's say horrible. I think people were expecting them to be one of the worst bottom 2-3 teams in the league, but I mean he's carrying them in a manner that you just usually don't see players do on these horrible teams. I think yes, I definitely agree. I definitely agree. Devin Booker is a snub, but I think Domantas Sabonis. I think it was probably a coin toss between him and Zach LaVine, and I would totally take Zach LaVine because Zach LaVine is the only player on the Bulls, and he's trying his best to carry the Bulls right now.
Wait, hold on. Mom, no. What? We're recording it.
Oh, okay.
I told her 5 times, do not come downstairs.
Nah, it's fine, man. No one cares.
No.
This is the most unprofessional professional podcast in the world, so don't even worry about it.
Oh, that's embarrassing. I'm sorry.
No, not embarrassed at all.
Yeah, sorry. Just restate what you said there at the end.
I was just saying. I think Sabonis. Didn't get in because LaVine did. I think since LaVine has the ability to carry this horrible Bulls team in the way that they've been set up lately. I think, and of course, you guys haven't had Markkanen the entire time because of injury, and so I think that's the reason Sabonis didn't get is because the Pacers are in a better set position compared to the Bulls, and so you got LaVine balling out on a really bad team compared to Sabonis balling out on an average team.
Yeah, and that's what the inconsistency though about that is that like I said last year and all these previous years, Devin Booker balling out. They didn't give it to him. The consistency actually of. I guess they didn't put Sabonis in, but you put LaVine in, which is like I said, I really like. But they put LaVine in on this Bulls team, who's doing good, but still, not a top tier team. But they don't give it to Booker for the past few years. So the inconsistency is a little annoying on the All-Star game. But
yeah, it's wild. You got a guy who dropped 70 a couple seasons ago, and he didn't make it the following season.
Yeah.
And this season he's been balling out with Chris Paul, who in his own right is probably going to be in contention for MVP just because of what he's been able to do with the Suns. And so the fact that he wasn't initially chosen, that's just BS in my mind. I will say, the one that I do agree with not making it is Trae Young. And this is why. That's probably kind of controversial because I think just a lot of people like Trae Young. I like Trae Young a lot too. But the thing that pisses me off about him is something that pisses me off about James Harden a lot too. Is he just draws a lot of free throws. Now, and the difference between him and James Harden's just a natural scorer. Since Trae Young's kind of smaller, he doesn't have as much muscle to him. He can't get to the basket with ease, kind of like Harden can. But, he's averaging, I think, 26 per game. But half of that is free throws. And he's pissing off people. And so I know, the starters are basically a fan selection, but the reserves are a mixture of fan and coaches selecting the players too. The coaches are selected, and I mean, even Steve Nash came out and was like, "Yeah, this isn't what basketball is supposed to be." When he's talking about Trae Young, so I think Trae Young not making it is pretty fair. I know he made it last year, but last year, he had that sophomore year where if you're a sophomore player, kind of like Zion this year, where you just have a great season, they're going to select you to the All-Star game. I think this year, people are starting to see that it's really free throw oriented, and he's not the same player as last year. Do you think Trae Young was a pretty fair snub, or do you think he shouldn't have been in?
I mean, I like Trae Young. I've been watching him. I've been watching him a lot recently. I like him, but I don't know. I mean, if you extend the field of players, I think definitely he's in the next 5. But I don't think over any of these players that are in, he should be in.
I think that's fair. I think that's actually a really good. I think that's what people should be doing. Is you should have 3 different tiers. You should have the starters, the reserves, and then just the almost reserves players that you think okay, they could be on the brink of it. But again, when you think of almost reserves, you don't think of Devin Booker.
No, you don't.
So
you don't.
it's like you'd be like, oh yeah, I mean this dude's balling out. Of course he's gonna be an all-star. So
yeah,
that's definitely a hard situation. I think another thing that sucks too is the West is just stacked with players and the East is not. So essentially. You have all these great players in the West because that's where everyone I think the West is just much more they're better oriented for the future and they just have better management systems there. And so there were players in the West that they've been balling out. You got De'Aaron Fox who's been balling out and he didn't make it. But again, there's just so many players in the West when comparison to East that whenever it's like Devin Booker's not going to make it just because how many good players are in the West. And so
yeah.
Good side question: do you think that Devin Booker stays in Phoenix his whole career?
Especially if they're able to make a run this season and the next couple seasons, like a deep run, I'm talking, Western Conference Finals,
right?
Potential Finals appearance. I think he will. I get kind of the Kobe vibe from him, and I think
okay, cool.
I think he'll kind of turn the Suns franchise into a much bigger, name altogether.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like someone who would really need to change. The only reason I was thinking about that is because, like I just said, in the West, there's just so many players. So I thought maybe he'd want to go to the East and just try to carry a worse team. But I guess that there also people will find an asterisk for literally anything nowadays. Yeah. I'm sure that people would create an asterisk for that. Transitioning back into the league that ended almost a month ago with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hoisting the Super Bowl trophy. Like we said, Chip, my boy, is a Bears fan. And if you guys have been watching the podcast, you know that because I poke shit and make fun of him all the time for being a Bears fan. Even though his team did make the playoffs, so congratulations to that, my guy. Even though it's to be destroyed on Nickelodeon.
Very short-lived. Hey, Mitch Trubisky, MVP.
Oh man, got the MVP and then got not re-signed by your team. So one thing that's been in the news a lot lately, and of course it is because it's the fucking Dallas Cowboys, and when are we not talking about this stupid team, is the Dak contract situation. I guess there were reports that came out today that because yesterday someone was like, yeah, the Cowboys are close to a deal with Dak, and then I think Shefty or Rappaport came out today and was like, that I don't know who said that. It's wrong. They're not even close on an agreement. They don't know what's going to happen. So my opinion is that Dak is worth between $30 and $33 million. I think the whole Jared Goff contract and the Carson Wentz contracts kind of fucked up the worth of quarterback contracts because they got overpaid highly. Even though I do like them as quarterbacks, they just got overpaid, and so you got quarterbacks like Dak who are going to be overpaid as well. And so I think that realistically, Dak is worth between $27 and $32 million. But what he wants is $40, and what the Cowboys are willing to pay is $35, which I still think is overpay. What do you think? What are your thoughts on the Dak contract situation?
I mean, I think Dak's a great quarterback, but I mean it's tough because I don't know coming off an injury, it's always hard to determine. I like Dak to be the future of Dallas, but it's really iffy. The whole quarterback, what quarterbacks are worth is pretty inconsistent as well because you got Stafford the Stafford Goff thing happening, but then so that just raises the stock of players like Deshaun Watson for the trading, but then they might also actually go for less, which makes no sense, but it is what it is. So the whole worth of a quarterback in the NFL right now I think is kind of up and down. So yeah, I'm not really 100% sure on what's gonna happen with the Dak contract thing, but yeah.
Would you take him in Chicago?
Would I take Dak? I would take Dak in Chicago. Yes, I would.
Would you take Dak for $37 million?
I would. No, I would.
What?
Dude, because the reason why is Chicago's in a spot right now where our defense is just getting older, and we need to win right now. And one of those major pieces to fill is the quarterback.
Chip, it's $37 million. You ruined my segment. I thought you were gonna say no, so I was gonna be like, exactly. There's no market for him, but you ruined it.
No.
There's no way. There's no way. $37 million. Just draft someone. Take I don't know Kyle Trask in this draft. Take someone. Don't fucking take Dak.
This is why. Because Dak is unlike drafting a player. You know, obviously, these players aren't proven, and I also don't trust us to draft a player after we passed up on Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes to take Mitchell Trubisky.
I can give you that. That's pretty fair.
So I don't really trust the drafting process of drafting a quarterback with our franchise, but Dak has proven that he's a good quarterback when he's healthy, and I think he'd be, you know, just what we need in Chicago, especially, you know, with how close we are to filling those spots. I think if we were to sign Dak, I think Allen Robinson, I think he'd stay. And so then at that point, I think we're legitimate contenders.
See, now you said Dak has proven to have success, and I agree with you, he has. But don't you think there's a sense of like, all right, they had the number one O-line for consecutive years. They had one of the best backs in the league for consecutive years. They traded to get arguably a top 15, top 10 wide receiver, and then they also had a great wide receiving core. And for 2 of those years, they had a relatively okay defense. So do you not think that he was drafted into a situation? Because then, I mean, if he goes to the Bears, you guys obviously have the defense he never had. Or if he goes to the Niners, they have the defense that he never had. But, you know, your offensive line isn't as good. You have inconsistent weapons when it comes to, you know, running back. I know David Montgomery was able to finally get his stuff together last year, but you never know if it's a new system. If he goes to like the Niners or I think other places like the Broncos, might offer him a contract. You know, you're getting a completely different system. You're getting a different offensive line, different running back, different wide receivers. So don't you think there's like, that's the reason I'm like kind of iffy on 37 million. Is I'm like, well, I mean, you haven't, or not even just your 37 million, but even anything down to 33 million. I'm like, well, he's been with one of the best O lines, running backs, and have the best weapons. So don't you think there's a little bit of that, or at this point you're like, I don't care. We were 8-8 last year. We still make the playoffs, and we just need a quarterback. Is that where you're at?
That's pretty much where I'm at. But I mean, I agree with you because I'm personally. I'm not one of those Chicago fans who just hates on Trubisky because I think he's a good player. I think, you know, our O-line needs a lot of work, and I think if we had a really strong offensive line, then Trubisky would be a lot better than he is. So that's a good point about Dak, but I think Dak is obviously better than Trubisky. So I think he would, you know, he'd be able to look past that and yeah. To the point to where, you know, we need a quarterback right now.
What teams do you think? Because that's another thing that I'm with. Like, why would you pay Dak so much as the Cowboys? Because there's no market. Do you think that there are any other teams that would be willing? Because, like, I mean, again, as a fan of the Bears, you just said you wouldn't mind paying $37 million. Do you think there are any other teams that would be willing to pay, you know, between $35 and $38 million?
I don't know if there's really is a team to the point where we're at because you know. There are teams who are a quarterback or a piece away or a quarterback away, but our situation is a little bit different because we have never actually we've never had our best quarterback in the history of our franchise is Jay Cutler, and that's really concerning. So we're just kind of like,
damn.
We're just kind of like, yeah, like give us a quarterback, while other franchises might be like, okay, yeah, we need one. We're probably about a piece away, but I don't know if $37 million is, you know, worth that. But
all right, that's fair. Wrapping up the Dak thing, I'm gonna give you some quarterbacks, and I just want you to pick if you take Dak or if you take this other quarterback.
Okay.
So we got Aaron Rodgers. Don't answer the question. We know the answer. We got Tom Brady. Don't answer the question. We know the answer. We got Patrick Mahomes. Don't answer the question. We know the answer. We got Deshaun Watson. Don't answer. Josh Allen. Don't answer. Russell Wilson. Don't answer. Now here's where I'm gonna start getting controversial. Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson or Dak Prescott?
Or Dak.
Lamar Jackson.
Okay. Ryan Tannehill. Think about Dak in Tennessee and think about Ryan.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna go Dak.
Okay. Justin Herbert.
Okay. I'm gonna go. I think Herbert will be above, but I'm gonna go Dak right now.
So you're saying right now?
Right now.
You're saying you would rather sign Dak Prescott?
Okay. Wait. No. I thought we'd. Okay.
Contract and all. We're talking contract and all.
Okay. Herbert. Herbert.
Okay, Kyler Murray.
I think Kyler Murray is good, but I think
Okay.
he's a little overrated.
Ooh.
I'm not. He's good. He's great. Not.
So you're taking Kyler in that case?
Yeah, I'm taking Kyler. Yeah.
All right, and Baker Mayfield?
Because of what he was at, I'm gonna go Baker. Baker Mayfield.
Okay, I'm gonna give you 3 more.
Okay.
Or 4 more. We got 3 more. We got Matthew Stafford.
Okay. Matthew Stafford. I really
Okay.
like Matthew
Uh,
Stafford.
Derek Carr.
This is really close. Since we're talking contract and all, I'm Derek Carr.
Okay, last one, Kirk Cousins.
There's no way that Kirk Cousins would end up in Chicago because he's in Minnesota. But I'm gonna go Dak.
Yeah, see, I have Dak around 15, like 15, 14, 13th-ish best quarterback in the NFL. And almost every single quarterback that we named is getting paid, besides like Matthew Stafford and a couple of the rookie or the younger players. They're getting paid more than Dak is, and I think that's where Dak kind of fits. I think that your contract ranking should be about where you are ranked in the quarterback world. So that's why I think 30 million is great. All right, cool. So that was a lot of fun. In our next segment, we're doing, of course, it's like one of the new favorites. We got But I Mean coming up. Even Chip brought his own But I Mean.
Yep.
So make sure you guys stick around for that. We'll be talking about that in a quick second. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. If you guys did miss in the last leg, we brought in my boy Chip. We talked about the All-Star announcements for the reserves and if we thought there were any snubs or any players who didn't deserve to make it in, as well as the Dak Prescott contract Cowboys negotiation because it's the fucking world and we talk about the Cowboys all the time and it pisses me off. But hey, it's content, so I'm not going to complain. Anyways, in this final leg of the podcast, we got our But I Mean takes for this week. If you guys are new to the podcast or if you guys have missed it, this is something new I've introduced since we've come back from our hiatus. But I Mean is essentially just like, it's like when you're talking with your friends and you just kind of have that thought and you're like I know this is happening, but I mean, why can't this other thing happen? And you'll catch on. Don't worry, you guys will catch on. So I'll give mine, and then I'll have Chip give his, and then I'll give my final one to end it off. And I'm sure Chip will have thoughts on mine. I'm sure I'll have thoughts on Chip's. So this is going to be a fun time. So my first But I Mean of this week. Now, I know Carson Wentz had a season that made him look broken beyond repair. But I mean, why can't Frank Reich get Wentz back to MVP form with the Colts? I mean, come on, let's think about this like realistically here, okay? He's getting a good O-line. He's getting a great young defense. He's got a great young running back in Jonathan Taylor. He's got a wide receiver who won't give him jack shit, not even his freaking jersey number, and Michael Pittman. They might re-sign T.Y. Hilton. Maybe Allen Robinson's pissed because the Bears don't get anyone good for him to throw to, so he goes to the Colts. Maybe Kenny Galladay goes to Colts. Maybe Juju Smith-Schuster goes, maybe they get these players. What? And Frank Reich, last time he was with them, he should have won MVP, honestly. And he tore his ACL, and then the rest is history. They won the Super Bowl without him. But, I mean, hey, why not? Do you think that that's a realistic thing?
I don't know. I didn't want to sign Wentz, but I mean, who's to say he can't get back to that form? I mean, I think it's definitely possible, but I think it's a lot more likely that he stays where he's at than because usually you see players fizzle out or stay how they're playing rather than go back to MVP form.
You don't think he's going to get like Tannehill, do total dog shit because of the system he was in and players he was surrounded by and then just moves teams? You don't think Frank Reich's going to fix that?
I mean, I think there's a lot better chance he does that where he's at now rather than doing it being able to do it in Chicago.
You know what? That's fair. I feel like that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of Chicago fans I talked to really wanted him. But that's not a total diss on him. I think he can. I think he can definitely play a lot better than he was, but I don't know if he can fully get back to what he once was.
Ah, that's pretty fair. What's your But I Mean take?
All right, so I know that the Jazz and the Clippers and the Lakers are in the top 3 in the West and playing really good, especially the Jazz. But why can't the Phoenix Suns be a top 2 team in the West? Because here's what I'm thinking. The Suns have won 12 of their last 14. They're balling out. It's not like they're on a downward spiral. They're playing the best basketball they have all season. And, the Lakers have Anthony Davis out, It's just the Clippers are playing well, the Jazz are playing well, but in my eyes, the Suns are just as good of a team as the Jazz are. And I think, when it comes playoff time, I think we'll definitely see the Lakers or the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. But I think the other one will probably be Phoenix, if I'm being honest.
No, I like that a lot, actually. I mean, they're like we mentioned in the last podcast, we were talking about D-Book. They're the 4 seed right now, and I mean they're only getting better. CP3 has been shown that he just kind of elevates teammates. He's just a good overall teammate to elevate a system. And I think one of the things a lot of people are forgetting about is they have a good roster, but I mean DeAndre Ayton didn't really play last year, so he didn't get time to evolve and grow as a player. So that's his second year is essentially this year. And he's already showing growth. I remember when he got drafted, the big knock on him was he might not be able to play defense. Now he's playing defense, and his offense is more of the concern. But I mean, he's going to get better. So, I mean, I really like that take. I don't know if I'd say. I mean, actually, I don't know if I wouldn't say they're not better than the Jazz. I think the Jazz might be the same team. Hold on, we got to pause for a quick second because I think Amona's punching air right now. Okay, now that's passed. Yeah, I mean, I think that them and the Jazz are kind of the same team. I actually got to see them play the Jazz. They're a great team to watch. They're really fun to play. I don't know about the Lakers. I feel like they might be able to pull off the Clippers if the Clippers are playing how they did in the bubble last year again against this team. I actually thought it would have been super cool if we would have got to see the bubble Suns play the Clippers. That would have been really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, I could see them finishing the 3 seed. I just don't see the Jazz going on I just don't see the Jazz finishing lower than maybe the 3 seed just because record-wise they're already so ahead. I'm not saying talent-wise, and then the Lakers and Clippers, I don't see them too. So, I mean, the Clippers might fall down a little bit, and the Phoenix might take their spot. But I like that. That's a good take.
How I feel about it is, like you said, the Jazz are playing unbelievable. Regular season Warriors is what I'm not Warriors in terms of the team, but
yeah.
But I think come playoff after the what is it 72 games now because of.
Yeah, because of the COVID impact.
So after the 72 games is up, I think the Jazz will be a top 2 team. I think the Suns will probably be, I think they have potential to crack into the top 2 teams in the West, but I think they'll probably be 3. And I think the Clippers will actually be 2, or 1 or 2, whichever the Jazz isn't. And then I think the Lakers will drop back to 4, maybe even 5. But that's just the regular season. Obviously come playoff time, LeBron comes out, and I think the Lakers will honestly probably have another trip back to the finals.
No, I agree with you. I think that's one of the things I was talking to Mona about a couple days ago with the Jazz. It's just the Jazz are one of those teams that, since they haven't had that much success in the postseason, the regular season is going to mean a lot to them if they can show out and win a lot of games. Mm-hmm. But the Lakers are going to take this, they're obviously taking this AD thing really slow. They're going to probably start resting LeBron a little bit more, playing time wise. And just because LeBron and Co can recognize okay, this is we're gonna make the playoffs. It's literally not an impossibility. We should be well rested. And so I agree with you. I still think the Jazz and the Suns, if they make it, they can make most likely the second round, possibly the third round. I mean that could be but I mean later in the year it's just but I mean why can't they make the conference finals?
Yeah.
So I definitely just want to see because that's my one concern with those teams right now is just that the fact they'll be gassed.
I think. Well, Devin Booker is the best player. I think the best player on that team. Chris Paul has got to be the most important player on that team because seeing what Chris Paul was able to do last year with that Oklahoma City Thunder team, to be able to then go to Phoenix with an even better team, who's to say they're not to make the Western Conference Finals? So I really like Chris Paul leading that team, and I think they could make a really deep run.
Cool. All right, here's my last one. I'm actually very curious what Chip's going to say about this. So, I know. I'm aware. I can see that they are currently the 6th seed. And they also have the 76ers and the Nets in their conference. But, I mean, why can't the Celtics be instant contenders if they're able to sign Boogie Cousins? I mean, a report came out. We talked about in News of the Week that Boogie is going to be released by the Rockets, which is weird. They're not going to trade him. But, I mean, surely the Celtics are going to be, the number one team to try and go after him because one of their biggest issues right now is big man and their depth. So, I mean, why can't Boogie Cousins be that last thing to put them over the mark? What are your thoughts on that?
No, actually, I really like that because, the 76ers playing amazing. The Bucks are up there. But the Celtics, they hadn't been playing as well recently, but I still legitimately think that come playoff time, especially if they're able to sign Boogie Cousins, then they can be, again, back to where they were, one of the top 2 teams in the East, battling for that Eastern Conference position. Because, I mean, this, on a side, not a hot take, but just a side take, I don't think Giannis needs help. He can't make it to the finals right now. With the team he has, I do not think he can get there. I think, it's going to be the 76ers and the Celtics. I think it's really going to come down to those teams, especially if they're able to sign Boogie Cousins. I think that would be huge. Get Tatum, Brown, all of them playing together and well could be incredibly scary.
Do you think they'd be able to knock off the Nets?
That's really tricky. I really like your take on the Nets trading Kyrie, but
Thank you.
I really like that because it makes total. Instead of having 3 superstars who want the ball, why not trade one of them for some great assets to complement James Harden and Kevin Durant.
I mean, speaking of teams that could be contending for Boogie Cousins, like why not the Nets too? I know that obviously him and Harden had his issues, but they need a big man right now, and Boogie could be that deep big man that they need. So I just think talent wise the Nets might be able to pull it off against a team like the Celtics. But I think come championship time they would be able to pull it off against any other team just because depth overall is going to help out teams. So I mean I just think Boogie going to the Nets is or not to the Nets, to the Celtics is really, really great for both parties because also Boogie would be, playing minutes that matter to him as well, not just to the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean the Nets. You're right. I didn't even touch on the Nets, but either way, whether they sign Boogie, whether they trade Kyrie, which I don't know if that would happen, but I think the Nets will obviously. I think they can make it to the 3rd round, but. The 76ers, if the Celtics were to sign Boogie Cousins, I think both of them are legitimate, could take them to 7, could beat them, and go to the finals.
Yeah, I mean, depth is definitely one of the most important things in the NBA. It's not always just star power. I mean, a lot of things people were talking about lately was, which team is better, the current day Nets or, the Prime Warriors, and everyone said the Prime Warriors because they didn't just have the superstars, they also had the depth.
Yeah.
So there we go. I had the Carson Wentz could go back to MVP form with the Colts maybe. Chip had, why can't the Suns contend for not only the conference championship but the NBA championship? And then I had, why can't the Celtics be great with Boogie Cousins? Mr. Chipper, Mr. Cinco25, one of the first guys I ever met whilst doing YouTube. Haven't even met you in person. It'll happen soon, though. Don't worry, you will be on the couch soon. That sounded kind of sus. Don't think about that too hard. Thank you so much for coming to the show, man. I'm really glad that we were able to set this up.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And I also I want to have you on in the future shows, whether it's virtual or in person. I really love doing this. I'd love to get more guests on virtual. So, hey, if you guys want to be on the show, if you guys know anyone who wants to be on the show as well, please let me know. If you guys want to have Chipper back on the show, let me know as well. Chipper, if he wants, his socials will be in the description. You guys should follow him on Twitter. Actually, his Twitter's really great. He's been getting to betting lately. He's kind of a genius. Come NFL time, he's probably going to come on the show and have some wallet winners. So, just putting that out there. But, Chip, I want to thank you again for coming on the show, and I will see you guys in the next one of the podcast. I hope you guys have a great day, have a great week, stay healthy, and stay safe. Have a good time, guys. See you later.